I watched 2001: A Space Odyssey
For the first time?
for the first time in my life.
Wow.
Yep, yep. I am 26 and I watched it for the first time. It's been out
Interesting.
since 1967.
That is true. Here's another unabashed plug. You can catch me and friend of the show, Ochiolo, talking all about this movie. But
Yeah,
Luca, what were
Ochi
your...
Olo, who once I told him I'd never seen this film,
He
he
was
looked me in
mad.
my eyes and said, "I am a bad person." So I was like, "All right,
man,
I'll
I can
watch
see
this
him
film."
saying it.
You should feel bad.
Yeah.
So I watched it. It's excellent. I loved it. I have to say though, George Lucas, this man. What did you write about George Martin in that one episode we did? He's a hack.
Oh, oh,
Dude,
wow.
the visuals of Star Wars, like it is 2001. I was watching, I was like, all of these like analogs, like this is the aesthetic interior of like sci-fi in so many movies.
Yes.
There's so many scenes. I was like, I've seen this and other things. Like I've seen the homages to this like everywhere in sci-fi.
Yes.
And obviously the music, like I've heard it everywhere, and this is like what it was originally for. But yeah, like obviously, like this is the inspiration, like the godfather of sci-fi, and I can see it. I don't understand it. I really don't. I don't know if you guys remember the ending, like
Yes, yeah, of course.
like the whole final like 30-40 minute sequence.
Yeah, go ahead.
man.
Go ahead. I was about to ask that. So go
Yeah,
ahead.
so my interpretation of it after seeing it once, I still haven't seen video analysis of it. So, oh my god, what's the dude's name? I forgot it again.
Hal.
No, not Hal.
Man.
Oh god.
But the lead character guy.
Lead
Right.
character.
Yeah. Anyway, the last guy, like the last astronaut who's on the ship, he turns Hal off. The way I saw it was his whole like trippy journey, like with all the landscapes and various colors and stuff, like, and then him seeing himself grow older. My sort of interpretation of it was he sort of represents humanity as a whole, and it's like progression through time. The monolith is like memory to me, is like information and knowledge and just like just the
advancement.
Yeah, like maybe like the seed, and then the embryo at the end, like the baby. I saw it as like time has sort of like the cycle of time is reset and we're back to the beginning of the film, and it is like seeding life onto the planet Earth once again. That is how I saw it after talking to my mom after watching it together.
Okay, you watched it together.
We did, yeah.
Was she like your mom you've watched some sci-fi stuff with before, and Dune?
Yes. Yep.
Which is sci-fi. I don't know why I needed to clarify that, but was she like into it, or because that movie's a bit of a slow burn? What were her thoughts?
Well, she's a fan. She had seen it before, like years and years ago.
Right.
She also was like, yeah, I don't get it either. Like, let's talk.
Yeah. Okay. There's so much to address with what you've said so far.
Mhm.
I think the end of that film is ambiguous, and everyone sort of has their own interpretations. And I've never heard one that I was like, nah, probably not. Like just years now, that's the first time I've sort of heard it phrased in that way. And I'm like, yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
Like, who knows what the fuck that guy was trying to prove with that movie. But yeah. Before I address the other stuff you said, Joe, do you have any feelings about the end of that movie? It's been a while since you've seen it.
Yeah, it's been quite a bit. I've actually seen a few like what are they called? Like in-depth reviews of them that I have touched on similar topics like that you discussed. So I think you're in the right ballpark of your feelings on it. So for me, I kind of just went in blank. Like I said, it's been a while, so even like the embryo thing, I'm like, oh Jesus, yeah, that did happen. So I don't really have much to contribute here.
Oh, no worries. But I have to address the George Lucas as a hack, because I can see the similarities between our conversation about George R.R. Martin and George Lucas. Mm-hmm. Whereas I hold fast to the idea that George R.R. Martin, I think he's a fantastic writer. I hope that part wasn't lost. I think the mystery and sort of the feudal politics in Game of Thrones is interesting. It's suspenseful, but I think what made Game of Thrones super successful as a television project was that it was unconventional and that main characters can die. And I think that was one of the selling points. No one's safe. Like, don't get attached to anyone. And it was like, well, I have to tune in next week to see if my heart gets broken. Where it was like, was it A+ quality the whole time? A lot of people will say like the first 4 seasons were, and then it waned after that. For me, now taking a retrospective look, especially when we talk about some of the stuff in the overarching world building of that universe, I'm very sort of jaded towards it. I'm like, I feel like I was sold fantasy politics, and the surrounding world isn't very much fantasy. It's very like, I don't know, someone who like, like an AI generated fantasy world, it feels like to me. Everything is super vague and uninteresting outside of what happens in Westeros. And for that reason, I dubbed thee a hack. Now, George Lucas, I will not accept the title of hack on George Lucas, where I do think maybe his strength is not in storytelling. The prequels are a clear indication of that. In story creating, he made a fantastic story. Now, was he the best person at telling it? No. Irv Kershner was in The Empire Strikes Back. But it is his creation. And I guess where you could pull back from that is that it is just Dune mixed with serial cartoons from, his childhood and Flash Gordon and the hero's journey. It's just all those things in a blender. But that isn't AI generated. There's more heart to it. It's like, I am George Lucas and I love Dune and I love these things I grew up with, and I love Flash Gordon and I love Westerns and I love samurai films and I love blah, blah, blah. And this is all the things I love in a very cool, technologically advanced, way ahead of its time project. And that alone, just the technological advancements that Star Wars brings to the film universe, I think, rid George Lucas of any faults, in my personal opinion. Now, is he a great director? I don't know. Episode 4 is very well done. 1, 2, and 3 are shaky at best, and definitely controversial. I love those films, but I can't sit here and tell you they're well directed and executed storytelling entries. So I reject that notion, Luca.
I know.
But I understand where you're coming from.
Like, he's not actually truly a hack, obviously. I love Star Wars. Like, I've never... And what I hate about Star Wars is not even his work. Like, yes. it's the post-George Lucas era that, like, makes me not like the Star Wars story. So that was just a comment for you. But I can't help but notice, like, there's such clear, like, the aesthetics of this film. I was like, this is literally like, this holds up today.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like the Millennium Falcon interior looks a lot like the HAL unit area. Like, it's the way the buttons look, the way they press, like the colors of them, like it's very similar. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. I wouldn't be able to say whether it's he saw that in 2001 was like, I want that same feel in my movies, or if, during the late 60s and 70s, analog switches were a thing. Old music equipment and stuff all have like old amplifiers that I've owned, all have those, silver analog switches, and it's very satisfying. So I don't know if it's just a matter of like retrofuturism when we look back at it at this point in time, or if it's like, I love that food. And he probably did. He probably loved, 2001. I think he's even cited it as an inspiration. So, Joe, do you have any thoughts on George Lucas being a hack? And
I think you're completely right. His like world building is awesome. Like when it comes to like the overarching thing, and how he combined like the love of westerns and samurais, like fucking spot on to a T. Like he did a good job of combining it all. But yeah, story wise, some of them are they're better than some. Some are like I really enjoy, some not so much. But the overall world of like that of Star Wars, I fucking love it. And like I'm not as deeply as a fan as you, but anytime I watch any media or any show that has to do with Star Wars, I just fall in love. And I just started Book of Boba Fett, so
nice.
I'm excited to watch the rest of the episodes. But I'm not as a hardcore fan, but I usually enjoy any media Star Wars wise.
Yeah, I think that's a point you made there is perfect. I don't think anyone. Well, okay, well that maybe not true, but I'm arguing with myself before I've said my point. I think for me, I fell in love with the world of Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that there are Jedi and spaceships. We got knights and, fucking spacecraft. That to me is the thing that like draws you in. The story's almost secondary. So, but at the same time, I do love the story of Star Wars, especially 4, 5, 6, like, finding out who you are and then overcoming that type of thing. So I do love the story of Star Wars, but for me, it's the world. Like, I love the world of Star Wars.
And even what they're doing now with the Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian, like the whole world's there, but these are different stories around the galaxy. Like, and awesome. You get to like learn little things that you didn't know and see different things that you've heard about, but you didn't know more in-depth detail. But I'm fully in love with the world. Honestly, even just seeing like the crazy little planets they think of for like even in Mandalorian to go to like the all war world with like basically pirates and shit. And then like the was the word like kind of like a sanctuary world. It's all green. It's all like people farming and whatnot. Like I love seeing like those different atmospheres that are all integrated into this big galaxy.
Yeah, and I think like again with like the world is like we like these new shows that are coming out because they exist in the world of Star Wars. But the stuff that people haven't liked is when we keep going back to same like legacy type characters, and it's like, oh man, I don't really need to see
exactly. I'm done
this
with
person.
you.
Yeah, like their story's finished. That being said, we were just talking about Book of Boba Fett, which is exactly that. So, it's tough, I guess. But going back to what you initially brought up, Luca, I think, like you said before, when you go back and watch these sort of like classic and cult classic films, especially sci-fi and fantasy, but I think more with sci-fi because, part of getting those shots and making them look real is that, they have to be like some sort of technological advancement or innovation in filmmaking. And that's what, oh my gosh, I can't believe they made that thing float or whatever the case may be. And I think when you go back and watch those older films, you're like, oh, this is where film A through Z got that thing from. It's like the motorcycle spin you see in every animated project ever. It's like when you finally see Akira, it's like, oh, oh, okay, So yeah, I don't know. Star Wars definitely borrows some of that filmmaking prowess from 2001, but then I think also borrows story aspects from Dune. Even something as simple as spice on the desert planet is like a main theme in Book of Boba Fett, which is like just clearly a complete rip away from Dune. So yeah.
So yeah, that is my topic on 2001. Again, I don't want to take. There's nothing wrong with art imitating art. That is how art works.
Yes.
So I take my George Lucas as a hack.
I win. Yes. Nice. Well, good. Okay, so now we'll throw it over to you, Joe. What do you got for us? And what do we call this segment?
Joe's jovial jokes going on today. But this is serious.